Homage number 21. You folks don't even know what Jay and I just had to do to make this happen today. The amount of work it took over the last 10 minutes, we should be submitted into the Nobel Peace Prize because we were about to go nuclear. Everybody, how are you doing? Here today with episode number 22, my dear friend Jason Ellinger from Beard and Bowler. Jay, before we start this call, I want to wish you happy birthday.
Thank you.
You look fantastic for 86. How was your birthday?
Birthday was good. A lot of running around. Actually, birthday weekend, I was working overnight at a gig. So I love work. It's great, but it was good to be back Sunday and do hibachi with the family.
Hibachi. Now, hibachi. Let's talk about hibachi before we get into the real important stuff. There's nothing better than good hibachi.
Oh yeah.
And the hibachi things that go on now. So your son is now what, 2? Okay.
2.
So he doesn't have the same reactions. I've been seeing a lot of things on Instagram with little kids at hibachis with the volcano onion.
Yeah.
Like that type of thing. They're pretty funny, but I'm assuming your son doesn't have that reaction anymore. He's more like fire, like he's digging it now.
No, he's still, because they did the volcano, but they also did like the whole tray or the whole grill lit up in flames. So it was huge fire, like you felt the heat, and he jumps back, but he got used to it the second time because the tables are right next to us. He saw this table, and then he saw ours, and yeah, he got a little used to it, but he still jumps.
So it was the second time he understood this was a part of the show and that the whole joint wasn't going up in smoke.
It still took him a few seconds, but yeah.
Understood. Well, happy birthday to you. The other story that I want to get into. So Jay and I now go back probably 5-6 years. How old is Beard and Bowler now?
End of 2016, it was official.
Wow. So coming up on 6 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And these guys, Jay and his partner Matt, been with these guys since day one, watched the evolution of an idea to what it is today, which is one of the most amazing, storytelling in production companies. I'm going to let you talk about sort of the hero collector moniker. But so Jay and I were off camera before we got started here, and he was telling me that obviously there's the beard, which Jay has the beard, and then the bowler, which Jay also has a bowler. The bowler that Jay has on right now is not the original bowler. Apparently, the original bowler is somewhere on a street, and it just consumed too much water. Tell us what happened to the original bowler. I would have never known. I mean, I've been with you the entire journey, and I never would have known that was the replacement bowler. But
okay, good. Because Matt, my business partner Matt, has been nagging me for the past few years. Like, we need a backup bowler. Like, you need 2 of them. Like, what happens if that goes away? You can't find it. Like, the business is done. It's just done. So I was in the car, and I must have taken it off and put it on the headrest of the car. And it was one of those windy days we had a few weeks ago, and I guess someone opened a door and it was just gone. And a few days later, I'm like, where is my bowler? And I'm looking at my wife, and she's like, you know what? I think I saw something in the street the other day during one of those rainstorms. I'm like, wait, what do you mean you saw something in the street? And she said, it was way up the street, though, not by our house, way up the street. And it was huge. It looked like it absorbed all the water, and it was flat, and it was nasty. And I was like, it's probably nothing. And I was like, that was probably my bowler. So I was bowlerless for a solid week and change until I found similar, because this isn't like an actual bowler. The actual bowlers are like very stiff, and they were actually like hard hats for the working man in like the 1800s in factories, like as opposed to the fancy top hat. And this is like a imitation felt one, but it's the right fit, right? So to find one, I actually found like a hair and wig company that sold bowlers. So I could have got two wigs, but I got two of them. I got this one, and I got this one, and there's one back here for when we shoot video. So
Hold on,
we're,
did you just say you could have gotten two wigs?
I could have got two wigs and a bowler.
Were they running a special on bowlers? Like you buy two wigs, get one bowler free?
That would have been. We should talk to them about marketing. I don't know, but
That would have been amazing. That would have been, oh my gosh. I didn't know that wig companies were throwing in bowlers. I might have to get myself a wig. That would be amazing.
there's a few different hat options. But I finally found the one that looks like this. The original place my wife ordered it from, I think in 20 like 13 or 14, was all sold out of them in my size. So I had to find a replacement shop.
The replacement bowler looks really good, even though it's kind of like the faux bowler. We'll call it the faux bowler for purposes
Yeah.
of this. It looks great. You look great, man.
Thank you. I was worried it was a little too square up top in comparison to the original, but
And I never would have known. For us that are not worried about hard hats from the 1800s, we don't know the exact specs on most bowlers. So I think I think in 2022, you're probably pretty good. I'm pretty much assuming that 99% of the world doesn't know the exact specs on the proper bowler size, but it looks
most
great.
of the people I'd say about 40% of the people I come in contact. Oh, beard and bowler. I get one, but where's the other? Do you guys have a bowling league or something? Like nobody has any clue.
What the
So,
bowler is.
and
That's
I got
awesome.
to talk to your guy because I think maybe 60% of our web hits are from people that are searching for bowling. So
Really?
we got to do something about that. I don't know what's happening,
The
but
the SEO's off. You got to talk to Enrico about that.
yeah, we got to work something out.
That would be great. You should start the bowler bowling.
Yeah.
This is going way off track, dude. This is insane. All right. So today with Jay, the homage part of this, extremely important. Like I said, known Jay for 5.5 years. Him and Matt, was them at the very beginning of this journey. They've taught me a lot. So thank you to you guys. You guys, in terms of persistence and trying to really perfect your craft. I mean, these guys, if you don't know who they are, like the production and the quality and the work is immense. And that goes back to Jay's background, what he did prior to this. So Jay, tell us the journey for you. How did it start? How did you know Beard and Bowler was going to be? You go. How did this all happen? How did this come together?
I think maybe I'll take you on a journey where it kind of leads up to where you come in, because I played a big role in it. But I started a video company in '07, launching with what was then a luxury item just in time for the '08 recession. So
Timing's everything, brother.
yeah, it was a good move. I navigated that for a few years, and then I was getting married, and I needed like a bit more stability. I don't know, maybe some benefits or something for my new wife, and I took on a day job with the news, and I had the 4 a.m. to noon shift. So I caught a lot of the overnight crime. The riffraff it was too early for them to be up, or too late, I guess, for them to be up, but it was every day. It was fires, shootings, stabbings, murders. Like that was my job. Like I would see a lot of stuff, and it got to the point where it was just like it was a lot. And I think the pinnacle, or maybe the low point for me, was when I went to my second 11-year-old's funeral, and I remember calling my assignment editor saying like, how do I do this? How do I navigate this sort of thing? And I talked to the reporter, and she just or the reporter was there. She just kind of nudged me and said, "Oh, go get the mother," like without even flinching while she's tweeting on her phone, like just because we were all so numb to the violence that we saw day in and day out. And I'm like, "Get the mother? What do you mean, get the mother?" And it's like, go interview the mother, try and get some sound. That's what they call it, sound on tape, from the mother, because they need to make an emotional connection to the story. And as I'm sitting there interviewing this mom, like with other news stations now crowded in, who just lost her son, like weeping, I'm thinking and justifying it to myself, maybe somebody will see this and they'll learn from the mistakes, and I won't be back next month, next week, next day sometimes. Like, and I think at that point I realized I was doing probably more harm than good in informing um, the public about all the mistakes that they're making. Like, I felt like I was a professional tattletale. Um, Not to say that news doesn't have its place. It absolutely does in certain scenarios. But we were a 24-hour news station, so, and I was a hard news photojournalist, so it was just all the time, every single fire, every single this, and there were some good events too, some nonprofits. But I started meeting with a guy called my guru, and he said, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, it's still video. I still think that has a potential to make the biggest impact in the world via messaging. But what type of video? You're doing video for the news. You're not liking that. Fashion, Condé Nast, Diesel, L'Oreal, Tresemme. Like, you're doing work for these brands, but that's not necessarily making you happy either. What would be the thing? What would be the why? And I said, if I could tell the stories of the people who are giving back, who are doing everyday good deeds, who have come from nothing and made it to something, that's something I feel like would have an impact and be an inspiration to others to do something like that. And he's like, you're right. I would love to tell those stories too. Problem is that I don't think there's any money in it. And at that point, this is a part of the story I usually don't tell, because that's pretty much the end of the road where I found the why, and we kind of go from there. But at that point, I had been meeting with my guru, who is now my business partner, and he's like, I'm talking to this guy. He's using our parking lot for his agency, because his agency is just kind of exploding with growth. And he's a marketing agency, and I coach soccer with him, so I'll pick his brain every now and then. I'll pick his brain. And
hold on, before you go down that road of we coach soccer together, I was supposed to be the coach. Matt got there, saw what I was doing, and was like, let me take this over. And I was like, yo, dude, you run with it. I'm good with it. I'll be the dilly bar guy and you be the coach. And that's how that went down. So let's call it what it is.
Matt taking over? That doesn't sound like Matt at all.
Matt was like, I got this, dude. You're doing it all wrong. I'm like, totally. I'll just get the ice cream for the girls. We're good.
He told me about this guy, and that guy being you. And every now and then he'd ask very carefully for little nuggets. And one of the things he said was, that you said was, your face is the brand. And I kind of took that very literally. And I remember you saying, I've seen the guy, he's got this nice beard and the glasses and stuff like that. I don't even know if I had the bowler at that point, but that's it. Your face, your brand, like, just logo of that. And then I was like, okay, we also knew someone in our circle who was a budding graphic designer. And I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I said, this hat, these glasses, beard, half of the face, skull. And he's like, I think I can do that. And then a few days later, this is what we come back with. Your face is the brand. And that was off of your advice. That's what started this logo. Wow. Unbeknownst to you, we had been meeting for probably about 2 months before we actually met with you, to kind of craft our pitch on what we were going to say to you when we got the meeting with you. And Matt had finally got to the point where he was ready for the ask. And the ask was like for 15 minutes to run this idea by you. We had shot on spec this film for a nonprofit in West New York, New Jersey. And just because we know we needed, I had a decent body of work, but we know we needed something specifically to what we wanted to do. And you're like, nah, 15 minutes, I'll give you an hour, I'll bring the whole team in, let's talk. And I remember showing you the video, and you guys just kind of said it was next level. and we need to talk more. And then showing you the design, and I think both of you, everyone in the room just kind of lost it. You said you were going to get a tattoo of it on your arm, and
and then I went home and talked to the wife, and she was like, "Yeah, you're not doing
sounds about right.
pretty much how it went."
So that was a big part of the origin story. And then you said, okay, you know what? I think everyone kind of got each other riled up. And you said, you need to do this. And I'm like, I know I need to do this, but I need to get, I don't know, something. I can't just quit my job. And you're like, I tell you what, you come up with X amount, and we'll match it in retainer work because we want to see you do this. There's something here. There's a gift, there's skill, there's something here. And then, Matt, I think a day later, maybe 2 days later, he came back. He's like, "You got the money." And he said, you almost fell like, "What? You got the money? Who are you? Where did you find the money at?" So between the retainer and the investor friend that we had, that gave me like enough security to leave my day job at the news and go down this path of starting Beard and Bowler. So a lot of that was due in part to you and DSM. So paying homage right back to you for all that.
Going back to those days, I actually still have the book and that like poster board of the logo up on my table up in the office. Going back to those days, it's actually interesting to tell the story because when you go back and you realize, I guess what made it so rewarding, because we're now at 15 years, so that was, we were like 9 years into it at that point, or like 8.5 years into it. It was kind of like seeing ourselves 8.5 years before. And it was like having somebody give you the opportunity. Now, I didn't have the same opportunity that you're talking about. I shouldn't say I didn't have the same opportunity. It was more like somebody not felt, in my case, our first client was like putting up the sign at like Wyckoff Florist. And I think Dottie felt bad for us. So she's like, "Yeah, well, you could do the sign. If you think you could do the sign, you could have the sign." And having that opportunity and knowing how much you guys put into it was like, it was very cool. Like going back and thinking about those days, because you get so wrapped up in kind of the evolution of the company and like where you guys are at now, that we just had our 15 years and you forget about what it was like at the beginning and how hard it was. And like people see the end product and they don't realize how much work goes into it and how much like blood, sweat, and tears, even on your birthday, like you just said, you were doing it overnight. Like doing this stuff is really hard. It's not easy. And there's so many people even today that like, "Oh, you have it made." Like you never have it made. If you have your own business, you're always going to carry the burden. And I commend you for that, because there's a lot of people who talk a big game. There's not a lot of people who could actually execute it. And it was kind of the same thing with me, but going back to those days, and you guys were like guns on fire. You were like ready to go. You were like the guns of the Navarone. You were like, "Let's go. Bang, bang, bang." So as this happened, so thank you for paying homage to me. Unfortunately, this is my show and I'm paying homage to you, so stop it. So you take this, you bring it into fruition. We do projects. We did the NJBIA project. We're doing work with EVAs that, thank God, like it's happening again in a few weeks. And that when you had the opportunity to take this and to say, "Okay, I'm going to do this," I always enjoy the entrepreneurial story and what like different people bring to this and how they can, the audience, however, the 13 people that actually listen to this, how did it evolve over time, and what is the biggest challenge, and what has been the biggest reward for you?
Um, how did it evolve over time? I think coming into it, we were really, like you said, guns blazing, but like possibly in the wrong direction
Yeah.
because I had come from the news. I was just so burned from it. I was like, let's do everything the complete opposite. And our idea was really to find nonprofits or stories and find companies who could sponsor that out of their marketing or even charitable giving foundation to really invest in nonprofits and their story and their marketing to help them help themselves. And we found that that was a tough uphill battle because I don't think most companies were ready for it. It's too new. Like, wait, I can sponsor a nonprofit's marketing. I think I'm just going to spend 30 grand and buy them a walk-in fridge because that's tangible. And when we finally got the chance, I think it was a regional branch of Wells Fargo that gave, it was the equivalent 30K to a nonprofit, and they said, do something different with this. And we produced a series of videos for them, one of which broke records and got them over $1 million in one night. And that was one of the things I'm most proud of, A, getting a sponsorship, and then B, actually seeing it come to fruition and see it worked. They played it at their gala right before the ask, and people are like, oh, I get it now because you told a story of someone you helped. And that was huge.
Walking fridge might help, 100 people, but the actual video, the actual video of what we do, why we do it, could actually help 1,000 people.
Yeah,
because it carries that message so much further. That amplification. That's interesting because when you guys started it, like what you were saying, it actually, like, the world wasn't ready for Beard and Bowler. Like, your skills were all there. Like, if it was just gonna be a video production company, like, yeah, like they were there. But the whole model, like, I remember sitting with Matt over Chinese food from TS Ma, and he was like fighting me on this. And I'm like, dude, like, I get what you're trying to do. I see it. I see the vision, but like, you have to frame it properly. And that was part, I guess, like the evolutionary part of it. Like, the idea was awesome. The world wasn't ready for it. And that's hard to hear when you get it and the people in your inner circle get it, but you're like, how does the world not get it?
Yeah. Yeah, we
I give you guys a lot of credit to be able to do that, to be able to hear criticism, to be able, not criticism, but to be able to hear a message that might not align with what you see the values and the vision as, and tweak it to the point where you are today. Kudos to you guys. So yeah. What's going on now? What's COVID, like, last 2 years? Okay, we're coming out of it. Like, how did it evolve during COVID, and what's going on? Like, what's going to happen in 2022 and beyond?
COVID changed a lot. Mainly some of our technical, the way we shoot things, it changed, that are sticking with us to this day, and the way our clients do things. And then just, the idea of having all your eggs in one basket that could just be taken away at any point in time. But number one, we got this big shoot during COVID with NPR, and I had, at the time of the shoot, I had actually had COVID. Like, I tested positive, and I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I knew I could send my crew, but I needed somebody to interview, and no one could really interview like I could or like Matt could. And so what I did was I invested in a teleprompter, and it just kind of takes an iPad in it, and I come in through a Zoom call. So, like, just like we're talking right now, and I'm interviewing the subject. They're looking directly at me, so they're more comfortable than they would be with cameras here or cameras there. But they're also looking directly into like a 4K lens behind the teleprompter. And the type of footage we got where people were burying their souls while looking at camera, unprofessional talent, mind you, like, it changed the whole game. And I was like, how do we do this permanently? like we still had our signature angle from the side that's really tight. Sometimes it's moving for a little bit more dynamic shot, but this face forward approach was really game. I've always seen it in like sports documentaries, like really high end stuff, and I'm like, I want to figure out how to do that one day. And COVID kind of just forced us like 10 years into the future where, okay, now we can do it. And because we were forced to do it, and it kind of stuck with us. So now every interview we do is a face forward interview with a side angle, and they're just looking at me and not the camera. So that's the first way it really changed. But what was the
No, the that's actually really interesting, because that's a lot of the last guy that I had on, my buddy Matt McTaggart, it was the same thing. He's got a like graphics company. He had to change his whole model. He was doing a lot of office, inner offices, things like that. The whole game changed. So it's like you have to pivot. And with that evolutionary sort of pivot and that game changing, like whether it's forced or not forced, or whether whatever COVID means to you over the last 2.5 years, like what's next? Like where's Beard and Bowler going? If you don't say to the stars, I'm gonna punch you in the teeth the next time I see you. You better say the stars. We had a lot of meetings at the beginning, Jay. We did a lot of brainstorming.
We did.
Taking over the world.
It's funny. Another thing that changed for the clients is like, instead of the video for the gala, which was our specialty, the gala event, we started producing the actual shows themselves. Like people that didn't rely on Zoom or 100% streaming, we started doing a lot of pre-recorded content, which actually worked out well because it controlled the speakers, the amount of time that they spoke. It kept everything nice and contained. And we sent out what we called Zoom killer kits, which were just like 4K webcams and audio recorders, so we could really up the quality, but have something better than most people were doing. So we kind of stumbled back into the live event space, where we're actually covering the events and doing the video that's going to be played at the event. So kind of double whammy. That's where I think we're going to end up going as far as the products that we're offering, is the live event coverage with the same day edits that we did. We did one of those for Eva's Village.
Oh yeah.
And then our signature, which is the gala fundraising videos. So I can't say like, hey, we're going to be like this huge company or anything like that. But practically speaking, I think that's what's really the market's demanding now that events are back, and they're just like back with a vengeance. I think that's where we're going to end up, in the event space, around the event space, for nonprofits, but for socially responsible for-profits too. We're picky with those, but we still take on a handful of for-profits.
With regards to that, it's actually funny you say that. With like events are back with a vengeance. Like you see what's got, as behind the scenes is coming up in a few weeks, we're getting numbers and we're like floored. Yeah. We're like, oh my gosh, like people actually, like, we were worried that we weren't gonna be able to fill a 90-foot tent. Then you're like, oh my gosh, we might have to like turn people away. Yeah. It's crazy. Everybody wants
energy. It's so different. It's so different when they're there. They're just like, how you doing? It's just people are, because I've been to a few now because of the event producers that I'm working with. But like the energy is so different. The buzz is so different. It's not like, oh, I guess I gotta go to this gala, and I bought a table because I had to. It's just like, yeah, come on, who's coming with me? Let's go. Let's meet people. It's just like everyone's like, I can now, and I'm gonna do it before we get locked down again. So is this safe? And there'll still be a guy with the double masks on in the corner, but like there's it's different, it's a different energy, and it's like people are like appreciative of the event. So like nonprofits, companies, now is your time to get in the events, and just be warned that event people are going to be hard to find now. They've been sitting idle for like months when you could have talked to them about a virtual event, but now like you're gonna be really hard to find. Like I was literally part of one networking group. All they did was meet after 5 and drink bourbon and complain about the event space and people not getting vaccinated so that they can have events again. And that was their networking group. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I don't know if we'll be back, but this is cool.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because Jay's actually been to this event behind the scenes that we're talking about, and the energy was never lacking. Let's put it that way for behind the scenes. So if you're saying it's off the rails now, I can't even imagine what's going to go down on May 18th. There's going to be like, it's going to be insanity. I can't even imagine.
And that right there is a social piece. You cut that out and give it to Eva's Village because that right there that'll sell more tickets.
Yo, fist pump to Jamiroquai, virtual insanity right there, bro. See how we tied that all together? That's that's great marketing minds coming together for a common good. Oh my gosh. All right, so everything's happening. You're going through COVID. One of the biggest things that I admire about you, and this will actually go into, you're going to laugh at what I say next, but this will actually go into, I could only last a day and a half, the pain and torture that Jay put me through with 3 of our other buddies, like 2.5, 3 months ago with the social media, the LinkedIn challenge, is Jay's curiosity. I have never seen between you and Rico, and like Lee was just flaming the fire. And as you guys are talking about doing this, I'm like, this is so not good. This is so not good. This is so not good. So,
and you got challenged, so you had to jump in.
I had to. I couldn't say no. I totally couldn't say no. But I was like, I can't do that. Like, I don't know how you guys lasted as long as you did. So there was a group of 4 dudes, me, Jay, our strategy director Dan, and our buddy Lee McKnight out at RSW in Cincinnati, who embarked on a LinkedIn challenge where Jay spoke to a LinkedIn influencer, like an expert, who said, you got to post 6 times a day. I lasted a day and a half. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But your curiosity is definitely something I admire about you. You have that entrepreneurial gene, almost to a fault. If I do see you in a few Wednesdays, I'm definitely going to kick you in the shin for doing that, like in person, because it'll be the first time I've seen you. But your curiosity is immense. And I think that's something that, you know, the audience should take away, is that when you embark on something or you're going to do something, you can't half-ass it. You have to go in all the way. You have to really be willing to accept failures, to be able to pivot quickly. How do you characterize that curiosity? Like, where'd that come from? That trait? You have to have it behind a camera too. I think that's vitally important. It's what makes you guys, it's what sets you guys apart, because the quality, like, it's not even about quality. It's just a different, there's video production and there's like storytelling, and you guys really get to the storytelling part of it. And that could be a part of the sort of the UVP of what you guys do, but it really is like in the eye of the beholder. And I think it's spawned from curiosity to like go beyond just showing something or putting something on video. So where does that come from? Like, when did you start feeling that? Did you always know you wanted to do this?
As far as curiosity, it started, I mean, that drives my wife nuts, but because I have like an answer for anything, everything, and if I don't, I like Google it, and then I come up with this answer, and they're just like, "Shut up!" It's like, stop. But I remember sitting in my house, and our neighbors had a daughter who I guess had a stalker or somebody who was coming around and leaving flowers or something like that. They hired a PI. And I remember hearing that story and then seeing the detective in this PI looking Oldsmobile car. And I looked in the window, I'm like, is he in that car? And then I saw a cigarette just kind of like the ember light up. I was like, oh, he's so cool. Like he's there watching for the perp. And then I, for the longest time, I thought I wanted to be a detective until I realized you had to go through like all of the stages of being a regular officer before you got to that point. But that was like one of my earliest memories of just the curiosity just kind of kicking in. And then I wonder if this and I wonder if that. And I found these things like different hobbies, like a musician. I could pick up a guitar and just I was good at it, and I knew if I pursued this, I could be a somewhat successful musician. And I picked up a camera, took photos. I knew if I could pursue this, I could be a photographer. But it didn't. Nothing quite captured me like the challenge that is video. Between you have a still camera, you have to frame it right, expose it right, and all that. But you have video, you add movement to that, you add sound to that, and then what you add that I didn't have before Matt when I started this in '07 is the actual story, the actual content. And I could tell a story visually, like with images. But as far as interviews, I'd always ask the client to bring something because that wasn't really my forte. And Matt, don't put a camera in Matt's hand. He will break it. Like he doesn't hold cameras, right? But you could, if you give him like a story or a problem or a goal, like he will reverse engineer that until we have these questions that are just like going to produce the 7 elements we need to tell a proper story. The same ones that Disney and Pixar use. The same formula can be reverse engineered into video. And that curiosity just kind of led me down this path. What if we told the story both visually, my department, and with words, Matt's department? I was decent at camera, but what if we found someone who was better at me than camera and who was better than me at lighting? What if we found someone who was like specialized in audio and editing, like those questions just kept me pushing. I'm a natural problem solver. Actually, that also drives my wife nuts. So like when we come up against problems like, oh no, I have COVID, but we still need to do this shoot for the deadline. What can we do here? Natural problem solver, teleprompter, Zoom call. These guys know how to operate. I know how to ask the questions. So those things kind of drove us to, okay, here is what a standard video looks like. I know this because I produced them for the last decade prior to Beard and Bowler. What can we do that's going to be different? What can we do that's going to set it apart? And at that point, technology was just expanding leaps and bounds to from lighting. Now, like you can get a Hollywood style light set for like not $100,000, right? Camera movement, you can now get a gimbal, which used to be this huge setup. If you watch the old movies, this guy walking around with a vest and a steady cam for these huge film cameras. Now you could get one that's like handheld for a few $100. Cameras, to get movie quality, you used to have to rent the $250,000 Panavision cameras or ARRI cameras. Like now you could get similar-esque quality with the invention of DSLR. So all of this stuff was converging right around the time that Beard and Bowler was being formed to like, hey, this is affordable to get cinema quality style for a fraction of the price. And there's the old school guys are don't want to learn this technology because they're butting against it. Like, I need the film cameras, this, that, and the other. Like, I need my stuff, a whole setup. It's going to cost you $100,000 to produce this piece. And then the new school guys were still too new at it, and they didn't have the experience or the quality. It was like, so we entered right in this little niche where it was like, I think we could take this cinema quality style and offer it at like a reasonable package, something that even nonprofits could afford or invest in if they knew it was going to pay off, like within their gala or within the next few months of their gala. So that's from a technical side of things, of how things just kind of evolved to the point where like we were able to jump in at the right time and keep asking those questions, keep being curious, and keep being like, hey, they did that in a movie, like how can we do that in a real people shoot? So I guess, yeah, I kind of got off track of the actual question, but the curiosity is just like asking the question, asking the question, asking the question. how can this be better? How can we do this better? How can we do this better? Seeing what was out there and saying there's got to be a way to improve it without it costing like another $1 million. Just asking that question and being naturally curious, playing devil's advocate, that sort of thing. So, did I answer the question?
I don't know, but you fit right in on Homage. We start with questions and then go off completely off track into like tangents that have nothing to do with anything. Yeah, I think so. That was cool. That was great. That was fantastic. With you absolutely answered the question. With regards to that interest in finding other ways and just finding answers or finding solutions, I think that's vitally important, and it's something that I love to hear from other entrepreneurs that come on here, because it's like the folks at DSM, I mean, you kind of know the folks at DSM, you kind of know the culture. It's like, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution. Like, it's like, we know we have the problem, we have to figure it out. Like, that's what we are from day one. Like I said, it was always about, we can't do it. Like, you can't do this. And I was like, the hell we can't. We can do it, and we will do it. It might not be easy. It might cost more, just so you know, but I guarantee we'll figure out a way to do it. And that's always served us really well as well. With Beard and Bowler now, like how it's matured and how you've taken it from what it was, which was, the three of us or the six of us sitting in a conference room or sitting at a table eating Chinese food, like trying to figure this out. Where do you want it to go? Like, what's the next, we're coming up on 6 years. What's the next 2 years look like? Like, what do you think it's going to be coming out of COVID? And what ultimately do you want it to be? Like, what's the ultimate ideal for like Beard and Bowler when you started? Like, you've already accomplished a lot more than you think, but like, ultimately, what do you want it to be?
So I think as far as the company goes, we're starting to scale now a little bit. So I'm feeling the pains of that, and scaling and hiring and training, and just trying to offload a lot of things. And something you said kind of stuck with me for years, where we were sitting in your office and you're like, my goal is to make myself irrelevant at my own company. I was like, what does he mean by that? Why would he want to be irrelevant? And I don't understand. And like, now I understand, like, just through reading and learning, like, a business isn't a business unless you can walk away from it and it's still firing on all cylinders. Like, it doesn't miss a beat, So just taking all of the things I know and all of the things I do and like separating them, siloing them, and then offloading them and training those people up to eventually do it as good as or even better than me, is where I want to go with the company itself, and growing it to the point where I want my short-term goal is to go on vacation without a laptop, and then my longer-term goal is to have a job come in all the way without me touching it, and then out all the way, client satisfied without me being involved at all. Which sounds crazy because I look at everything that goes in, but like, I'd like to screen it at the end, but like have everything just completed and happen without me having to be involved. And then I can focus on things like expanding or starting a nonprofit for the stories that we really want to tell, but just there's no budget to do that. So that's kind of like end goals for us, is just to be able to have a successful business that's running on its own, and then create a nonprofit for the stories that are really going to inspire, just like, let's say, the guy on the street corner that started an urban farm. But he's not going to have like $20K to produce like this cinematic piece, like, and nor would he even think about that. But to be able to be in a position to tell his story, have an audience to do that, and distribution to do that, that would be like ultimate goals for us. but to also pay the artists well who work on these things, because that's a big pet peeve of mine. Like, I'd go into nonprofits, religious organizations. Oh, we're a church. Can you give us a break? Oh, we're a nonprofit. Can you give us a break? And that's cool and all, because, but they do that because they've worked with artists who were just starting out, and were passionate about the organization, didn't have money to give, and then got into this project 2-3 months down the road when they have to eat. That artist has to eat, and they're still working on this, editing this project, because the nonprofit's over involved in nitpicking at things, or whoever it is. Like, now they're being taken advantage of, and that's happened to me a lot of times. So big passion of mine is to be able to do something for said nonprofit or hero, but also pay the artists their actual rate, what they deserve to be paid to work on this, because there's a whole field of freelance artists and people that are just, you know, getting underpaid, taken advantage of, because they're not necessarily businessmen. And when you said one of the struggles, I didn't answer that question. One of the biggest struggles was like, how do I keep this consistent? And I'll sell a bunch of jobs, and then I'll end up executing, and then, you know, no one's doing sales, so they dip again, and I sell a bunch of jobs, and that used to be my process. So that was probably one of the biggest struggles, and still kind of is today. But like, I know a lot of artists struggle with that, and like, oh, why do I have a dry season? And they have no idea. So to be able to take care of artists and tell the stories that matter, and not it costing an arm and a leg to the people who deserve to have their stories told, would be goals for us.
That is phenomenal. I was actually not to make light of it. I was prior to you saying that, I was going to make a little joke, but I want to finish on this topic first, because paying people what they're actually worth and doing and being a part of that community is like really, really important. So kudos to you for that, because I think that building a legacy, at least for me, and I know it is for you guys too, because you're wired that way. The goal as DSMs become more mature has been, what's the legacy going to be? Like, who are we helping? How are we doing it? Like, we've created a good company. We've provided jobs and employment for people, you know, helping change lives, and, you know, but like, what's the bigger legacy going to be? I don't want the legacy of DSM to be like, oh, I had a job there and it was really awesome for 3 years. So it was like, what did we do? You know, what did we do beyond work when you were there that made you realize like, this is an awesome place to be? And we're like, you know, there's people, we have a lot of young people that work there, and this is not going to be their end all be all job, and that's fine. But like, what are the things we're doing to help and be bigger than just a marketing firm? And I think that's always been a driving goal. Getting back to the point of what you said about being confused when I said irrelevance, I didn't think you were going to take that literally. I was just a really big Star Wars fan, and when Obi-Wan Kenobi got cut down and the whole thing, like when he became more powerful, I came up with that analogy because I didn't have anything else at that point, so I didn't really know you were going to take it and run with it. But thank God it worked out for you, because I apologize. I wasn't thinking you were going to take it literally.
I understand it though. Like, you have to have a company that runs on its own, and obviously it's good to be a good asset. It'll be better when you're there, but like, it needs to be able to have you step away for a week or two and still be running. You know, yeah. I understand that now. So.
Absolutely, having people that ultimately, when you figure out the things that you don't want to be in the day-to-day of, and then actually finds it, there's nothing more rewarding than figuring that out, to me at least, figuring that out and then finding somebody who's like better than you at that. Like when Charlene came in for the financials, or when Zinka came in for the operations, or, you know, Dan came in for strategy, or Meredith came in for running accounts, or, you know, Derek for creative, or whatever it is. Putting together that team and just modeling that and seeing other people excel, like turning over the reins, and then like level by level by level, seeing people excel and bringing other people up. It's to me, it's the best part of doing this. And the journeys, like I said, even the people that leave, you see them where they started. You know, like Morgan, her last day was 2 Fridays ago, and she left. She came as an account manager, ended up leaving as a strategist, and then went to work. Just started working for like a big global pharmaceutical company as a digital. She didn't come there as she had no digital marketing background. It was all account management. But seeing that and like going on that journey with her, like, yeah, it sucks that she's not a DSM anymore, but like seeing that growth and that journey, like that's awesome. And you appreciate that. And it's really, really cool. Last thing is just for you, man. I want to turn this over to you. Tell the people how they can find, find out more about what Beard and Bowler is doing and where they can find things that are going to be happening. But in closing, for me, thank you for being you, for the passion and energy and the curiosity that you put into this, because you're changing the game. You've changed the game, but you're still changing it. And by pushing forward and doing all the things and the energy that you bring to the table and the passion that you bring to the table and the creativity that you bring to the table, I stand in awe, and that is my homage to you. So last 2 minutes are yours. Talk to the people. I'm like Sean Evans on Hot Ones, camera 1, camera 2. Tell the people what's going on with Jay Ellinger. And sorry, Sean Evans, you're my hero. But that turning it over to you. Tell the people what you want them to know about Beard and Bowler, and thank you for being you, man.
I appreciate that. I'll see if I can give it to you in 30 seconds because I have a 2:05 call, a very specific time. So,
Go.
yes, so we're commercial filmmakers, and we specialize in helping nonprofits raise funds and awareness, typically through the gala video. That's our main focus. And we want to be able to be in a position, we won't work with nonprofits if they aren't raising a certain amount at galas, because we want them to make their money back and more the night of, and then keep using it for strategic partnerships. So their board has a tool. So they have a fundraising and SEO tool for their website. That's our main goal. And then going along the way, we've picked up a lot of awesome corporate clients as well. Have connected with a lot of great people and just attracted like a lot of cool people because of the mission, yourself included. So I'm happy for that journey. And if you're watching this, I hope to connect with you soon.
All right, my man, Jason Ellinger, Beard and Bowler. Homage to you, my friend. Thank you for everything. Thanks for taking the time today. Appreciate you. Know you got this call in a few minutes, so I appreciate you taking the time. Love you, pal. Keep rocking, keep being curious, keep being you, man. And we'll talk soon.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks for
Jay.
having me on.
See ya.
All right.